friends. So today we are looking at subtraction of positive and negative numbers. So go ahead and write that at the top of your page if you haven't yet. Okay. The most important things that you need to understand to be successful with this is subtraction. Go ahead and write this down with me. Is the same as adding an opposite. So let's talk a little bit about what that means. Oops, I said a positive. I mean opposite. Okay, so if we're thinking about a number line here, in the middle I've got 0, right? So I've got a positive 1 right here, 2, 3. We think about our lines of reflection. We've got opposites over here. So what's the opposite of positive 1, friends? Negative 1, right? It's the exact same distance from our line of reflection right there. They're opposites, okay? So the opposite of positive 2 is negative 2. The opposite of positive 3 is negative 3. Good. So if we think about this, subtraction is the same as adding an opposite. Let's think about a really easy problem to grasp this understanding. Think about 3 minus 1. Okay, what is 3 minus 1, guys? 2, right? I want you to think about if I started on the 3 and I added a negative 1. It's the same thing as walking backwards 1, right? I'm adding a backward step, which is a negative 1, and I'd still end up on 2. So when you see a subtraction sign today, I want you to think about it as adding an opposite. So instead of 3 minus 1 equals 2, we're going to think of it as 3 plus, what's the opposite of positive 1? Negative 1 plus a negative 1. And now we've got same side, add and keeps, different sign, subtract. Take the sign of a higher number, then you'll be exact. So I had 3 minus 1 equals 2, and I will take the sign of my higher number, positive 2. Okay? So I'm going to leave this here for those of you that still need to copy this down. We'll practice this a little bit more. Okay? If you need it, raise your hand and I will pass it. You take it and we'll just pass it around. Yes.
So when you're looking at 3 plus negative 1, you can just take away the parentheses and the addition sign, and it'll still be the same.
That's right. So 3 plus a negative 1. The reason why I have these parentheses here is so that I don't have these two signs confused. Okay? But let's think about this in a different way. We think we've got this understood, but let's think about this with terms of counters. Say I had a positive team and a negative team. Okay? I don't know, we're playing dodgeball something. This team ends up getting a penalty and I have to take away 4 points. Okay, so right now, I'm going to erase this. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And negative 2 right here. Remember, forward and back, step forward, step back, step forward, step back. It's really 4 plus negative 2 right there. We've got a positive 2, right? However, let's think about it this way. Here's our bank balance, if you will. Okay? If I started here with 2, and I needed to take, so it's equal to 2, right? Because these cancel each other out. If I wanted to take 4 away from here, I don't have 4 to take away, right? If I wanted to subtract a negative 4, I don't have that to do, right? So that's why it would be more fair way that we can balance this out to be equal. I can take 2 of them away, right? I still have 2 more to take away. So to make that fair, we would give 2 points to this team over here, or add an opposite. Okay, so that's why I want you to think about that as we move on here for this next part. Okay, do you guys remember when we did bank balances on this type of sheet? Okay, I'm going to continue with some different scenarios to help us to practice this, but instead of using that sheet, we'll just use our notebooks today. So in this particular time around, we've got a new business, but there were some glitches that happened and some things were reported incorrectly. We're going to have to take those mistakes away. Okay, so go ahead with me. I want you to draw 3 columns. And in this first row, we're going to talk about an event that happens. And I guess the money that we'll start with, we'll stick that here. Then there'll be a change and a new balance. So in this first row, we start a new business. We start with $0, $0, $0. Okay? Then we get a credit of $8. Okay? So I started with $0. A credit, if you remember, is adding. So we're going to change. We're going to add $8. So our new balance, friends, is what? 8, right? Then our next thing that happens is we get another credit of $3. We started with 8. We're going to add 3. And so our new balance is 11, right? Okay. Then we lose some money. We've got to buy some supplies. So we've got a debit of $4. Okay. We started with $11. A debit of 4. Debit is a subtraction. When we think about subtraction, is the same thing as adding a opposite. Instead of subtracting 4, we're going to add a negative 4. Okay? So we have different signs. What are we going to do? Subtract. Same side, add and keep. Different signs, subtract. Okay? So what is 11 minus 4? 7. Take the sign of the higher number, then we'll be exact. So 11 plus 4 steps backwards, or 11 minus 4, we end up with 7. Okay? But then we found out that 3 of those dollars, when we got that credit of 3 up here, that was a mistake. Okay? So we're going to have to subtract. So the $3 credit is wrong. So we're going to end up having to take that back. Okay? So how much money did we start with? 7. Okay? So we are taking away that credit. Instead of subtracting a positive, I'm going to do what? Add a negative. Okay, so I have different signs. Subtract. 7 minus 3 is? Take the sign of the higher number, then you'll be exact. Okay, So this next part here, the debit of 4, that was an error. We didn't actually spend that money right there. Okay, so watch what happens really carefully. So we've got debit of 4 was wrong. So we started with 4, right? My debit of 4 was wrong. My debit of 4 was wrong. So I need to subtract that debit of 4 again. Okay? So subtraction is the same thing as adding an opposite. So I'm going to add, what's the opposite of negative 4? Positive 4. So when you see those two things right here where you've got minus and negative, it's adding an opposite. So when you see two subtractions, minus and negative, you can just change that straight into a plus sign, okay? So right, we have $4 back then, right? So now we end up with a total of 8, okay? So we're going to continue practicing that a little bit more. Go ahead and say goodbye, friends.
Bye.